Good afternoon to one and all. Going to the current topic, that is role of open source tools in cyber forensics. So first of all, we all know what is digital forensics, the definition. There are two definitions are there. According to Wikipedia, digital forensics is a branch of forensic science encompassing the recovery and investigation of digital material found in digital devices, and often referred to the computer crimes or digital crimes. As per CERT US, it is the discipline that combines or encompasses the technical fields like information technology, communication technology, and legal. So all these three are sewed together or combined together to form this particular field, that is digital forensics. And coming to the guiding principles of digital forensics, to that effect, any forensic field is guided by two principles. One is Locard's principle of exchange. The second one is Debert's rule. Locard's principle of exchange is mostly related to the investigation and collecting the material that has been exchanged between the scene of incident and the persons or the objects that are part of that particular incident. And Debert's rule is mostly related to the scientific and technical aspects it deals with. It deals with what type of methodology has been used, whether the methodology is peer tested and proper research has been done with respect to that particular methodology, and all that means with whether you are following different paths or various paths in the process of analysis or analysis. Ultimately you have to reach at the same goal, that is whether you are following path A for the purpose of analysis or path B for the purpose of analysis. Finally, both the paths should lead to the same destination, that is the result should be one and the same. So repeatability and reproducibility is dealt with this particular rules, that is Debert's rules. So these are the two rules that will be the guiding factors for the any field, any branch of forensics, not only digital forensics. Why so at this point, there will be a balancing act between the available technology and the judiciary, because judiciary is, whenever you are calling about forensics, judiciary is coming into picture, and judiciary is interested in knowing what made this particular thing to be committed, and who has committed this thing, how he has committed, when he has committed, how he has committed, and how you have collected, all those things to be answered before the judiciary. And technology offers a lot of things. So a simple example, a data recovery. There are so many number of data recovery applications are available at the field. But some of the tools will provide you or strengthen the hands of the examiner to answer these various W's and various H's. So those tools only can be utilized during the forensics. Okay, so among those particular things, we have to choose those particular correct application softwares. I am talking about only the digital forensics application softwares, and those application softwares can be utilized for this particular purpose, that is conducting digital forensics. So that's why there is a balance. There should be a balancing act between the technology and the judiciary when it is coming into the forensics. For a personal usage or for a normal day-to-day routine, you can use any sort of tool. There is nobody is questioning, nobody is you are not responsible to answer anything. But when it comes to the forensics, judiciary is coming into picture, and you have to be properly address all those particular issues. Why? What the judiciary is intended to know. And coming to the digital forensic process, these are the various steps involved in the digital forensic process: identification, collection, preservation, analysis. Sorry, in between the analysis and the preservation, there will be one other step is there, that is imaging, analysis, reporting, that is documentation and reporting. So these are the various processes that are involved in the digital forensic procedures. Of course, these are elaborate steps I have mentioned here. Some people may be having 4 steps, some others may be having 5 steps. But in total, if you elaborate each and everything, this is the entire process. And at each and every process, we have to use a certain number of tools. And mostly people will be thinking that, or it is told that digital forensics is a tool domain. That means if you are able to have various knowledge of various tools, their utilization, how they have to be utilized, when they have to be utilized, how they have to be utilized, then you will be able to successfully complete this particular entire process. But my personal view is, of course, tools are there, but apart from the tools, we have to have an idea, knowledge, how the data is arranged. What is the interactions of the data with the file systems? What is the interaction of the data with the operating system? Okay, all these interactions, the knowledge is very much essential. Then only you can have an idea of what set of tools can be utilized in a process in conducting a digital evidence examination, digital forensic process. For example, if you see here, there will be server scenarios will be there, server client scenarios. In those scenarios, the servers will be having various types of architecture, RAID based architectures, RAID 0, RAID 1, RAID 5, something like that. And how this, and in the RAID also there are two types of RAIDs will be there, hardware and software RAIDs. So in that particular scenario, we have to understand in the RAID concept how the data is arranged in the across the various disks. Okay, and in the case how the operating system will be interacting with this particular data. All these ideas, all this knowledge is essential. Otherwise, what happens? What set of tools you can utilize? Otherwise, what set of tools can support the for conducting the forensic analysis of such type of systems will be a nightmare. So if you go to the second part, that is the tool part in this particular scenario, that is forensic analysis of RAID systems. We're having various sets of tools available at the disposal of the examiners, commercial, open source, free tools, all those things. Say for example, commercial tools only if you take, there are n number some good commercial forensic tools are there. EnCase, FTK, Magnetaxiom, OS Forensics, Belkasoft Evidence Center, Xface Forensics, so many things. But among all these things, only one tool will be able to support this analysis of the RAID configured hard disks. Okay, so that is only EnCase. In other cases, directly the tool will not support the forensic analysis, but in a round the turn, the tools will be able to support the analysis. I'm not telling 100% they will not support. In a direct to direct contact, I'm telling. EnCase will directly support the RAID disks analysis, whereas other tools will support, but we have to have in intermediate or mediate procedures we have to follow. Then only the other tools will be able to support the analysis of RAID hard disks. Okay, so this type of knowledge is essential. That is, one thing is how the data is arranged, what are the interactions of the data with the file system, and interaction of the data with the operating system. That is one portion. The second portion is the tool-based portion. Then only you will be able to successfully conclude the forensic analysis. Second example, if you take the case of DVR hard disks, that is CCTV footage related, CCTV system related hard disks. The CCTV system related hard disks maintain their own file systems, not the popular file systems like NTFS or FAT or EXT, those type HFS, all these file systems, they does not maintain. Of course, only one or two cases like branded ones like Samsung or some other brands of CCTV related hard disks will be maintaining NTFS based file systems. But 99% of the cases, the file systems and the operating system related to CCTV hard disk is proprietary or closed. It is not open. So in that particular case, how to all the forensic tools available will support only the popular file systems. Then which tool will support? Otherwise, if no tool is available there, then what is the methodology to conduct the forensic analysis of the hard disk from the CCTV systems? These points we have to remember. So that's why we have to have both the knowledge, tool-based knowledge as well as the database related knowledge. And coming to the other aspects, that is the focus area for this today's topic, that is commercial, free and open source. Commercial, everybody knows, it is coming at a capital cost, and they are having good support from the OEMs, that is original equipment manufacturers, and so many other things will be there. They are all in one mostly. Okay, and coming to the free and open source tools. Free and open source tools are sometimes both taken to one go, but there is a small difference is there between free and open source tools. Free tools you have to use as it is available. You cannot change the source code or the that is, you cannot customize that particular tool, that particular free tool. Coming to the open source tool, the open source tools, the source code and the algorithms or the logics used are publicly available. So you can customize that particular code according to your choice. So that is the smallest difference between the open source and the free tools. In some, so to describe these open source and free tools domain, there are two nomenclatures will be used, FOSS and FLOSS, FOSS, free and open source software, FOSS. FLOSS means free and liber open source software. These are the two classifications. Okay, free softwares will be coming under FOSS, and FLOSS, the open source tools are coming under mostly under the FLOSS, but they are both used in any way. There is many people does not distinguish between those two things, but this is some sort of nomenclature. And coming to the merits and demerits of commercial tools, these are the merits and demerits. Merits means coming to the commercial tools, they are all in one. That means you cannot, there is no need to look here and there for each and every aspect of the forensic analysis. They are inbuilt with various modules. So all the modules will support maximum needs of the end users. And ease of use and user friendly, they are having GUI based interfaces. So with a simple 1 day or 2 day training for any person, they can be ready to function or operate that particular tool. And then good documentation is available. So how to perform the analysis, how to install, how to perform the analysis, how to maintain all these things, how to operate that particular tool, all these things, well documentation is available from the OEMs. So you can follow that particular documentation. If any issue is there, simply. Okay, certified trainings are also will be there with respect to the tools, like NK certification is there, access data certifications are there specific to the tools, and Celebrate certification. That means tool specific certifications are available. So if anybody wants to have some sort of basic idea, otherwise some sort of extended idea with respect to how to install, operate and maintain the particular tool, if the particular individual is attending that particular certification programs, he will be able to operate that particular tool in an efficient manner. Marketing, naturally commercial tools, they want the money, so they will be marketing their tools irrespective of the demerits also. Support, 24/7 support also will be there. If any troubleshooting issue is coming, you can raise a complaint so that support team will be available to you with a proper solution or viable solutions. Funding, as R&D is the main backbone for the development of the commercial tools, naturally funding support is also there for these commercial tools. Coming to the demerits of the commercial tools. The first demerit is the algorithm logic, otherwise the source code is not known to the users. How the tool is functioning, what interactions that is going to perform or do with the data that is being given for the purpose of forensic analysis, that is not known to the end user. And it is guided in the sense people that is from the marketing side, they will be telling that our tool will be supporting all these things, but the end user will never be having an idea what are the possibilities and non-possibilities with respect to a particular tool. Okay. Algorithms and they still miss some data, the commercial tools. Say for example, in the last few years, previously we have not seen in the field such type of marketing or guiding, but in the last 5 years, we have seen the OEMs through vendors, they are trying to misguide the community with respect to the capabilities of the tools. Say, for example, some OEMs or the vendors tell that their tool will be capable to crack the pass, that is lock codes with respect to the Androids or latest iOS devices also. But practically, if you observe, there are so many limitations will be existing in that particular scenarios. So nobody will be highlighting those points. They will be highlighting, they will be able to support all sort of scenarios. So if the end users are misguided with this particular propaganda, they will be tomorrow in a soup, because the administration will be telling that you have told the tool is capable of doing any sort of glitches, all these things. But practically, when you see, the tool is not supporting in some particular cases. So you have to be answerable for that particular issues. So we have to, before procuring the tool, what is the actual capabilities and what are the incapabilities, merits and demerits of a particular tool, then only you can go for that particular procurement of that particular commercial tools. So these are some demerits of the commercial tools. And with respect to the third party application parsing or analysis, the commercial tools, most of the commercial tools does not support all the existing third party applications. They only provide the data by using your own manual methods of analysis or by third party free or open source tools. You have to parse that particular data related to a third party application. Then only you will be able to successfully complete that particular investigation or analysis. Here, I will give you some recent one example. We have received one case, that is a mobile phone. In that particular mobile phone, we have found an application, third party application, that is a photo editing related application, that is NQ Mobile Wallet. And this particular application is not available for the users in India. So somehow from the online web forums, the APK file has been obtained by the user. He has installed that particular application in a mobile phone. And this particular application, what it does is, when you are editing some photos and saving them in the internal memory of the mobile phone, it uses an encryption called XOR, XOR. That is your electronics. We are hearing that thing, XOR type of encryption. Of course, it is a simple thing, but it uses that particular encryption. So during the analysis, we found that application and the tools, whatever are their commercial tools, the number one tools thought to be, they are unable to parse that particular data. So we have to do some sort of R&D, and then we have understood the functioning of that particular application and what sort of, how the data is being arranged or stored. Then we found this encryption, that is XOR type of encryption, being used in storing the images. Of course, all the images are obscene contents. Then we have found tried to found methodologies or the ways to decrypt that particular files so that the plain photographs are visible. So for that thing, we have to take, spend some 10 to 15 days. Finally, we have succeeded. So that's why I'm telling this particular example is commercial tools, whatever the merits exist, apart from the merit, underneath the merits, some demerits also exist. So we have to be very, very cautious while conducting the forensic analysis. Otherwise, the forensic analysis is not 100%, and we will be missing some data artifacts. And those data artifacts may be vital in proving a case. Another example I will quote. In it is a murder related case, actually referred by the recommendation of Apex Court to our laboratory as per the directions of the Apex Court. So in that particular case, it is a WhatsApp related conversations. That is the deceased person's mobile. we have retrieved the data by using some good commercial tools. But it is a target case. Within some 3-4 days, we have to complete the analysis and provide the data to the agency. So in that particular target-based environment, we have retrieved all the data, whatever is required by the agency, and provided that thing to the agency within that 2 or 3 days. Later on, after reaching the place, the agency has sit down and going through the various contents. So they have got a doubt what the mobile phone contains normally nowadays 2 SIM cards, that is 2 mobile numbers, and 2 WhatsApp accounts are existing. There is parallel apps, we all know. One app, one is linked to one number, the other is linked to another number. So they wanted to have an idea what are those numbers and which account is linked to which number. So then they have telephoned to us. Then we have gone through the report, whatever we have provided. Unfortunately, because of the target-based working environment, we have not gone into the intricacies of the particular thing. Our aim is to provide the relevant data. So we have provided, that's what I have thought. But later these questions also came. Then the commercial tools, whatever we have used, those tools are unable to address these issues. That means which number belongs to which account and all those details. Then once again, we have to depend on the open source or the free tools. And then the first area, that is understanding the data arrangement. That also has played a crucial role in addressing those particular questions by the agency. So successfully we have given that particular thing. So we should not blindly follow the commercial tools. We have to use the particular commercial tools at the same point of time for validating the data that has been retrieved. We have to use a secondary tool. It may be a commercial tool, but my personal opinion is you please depend on the free tools or open source tools for validation of the data or the validation of the results you are getting from the commercial tools. Then your analysis will be near to perfection. I'm not telling 100% perfect, but near to perfection. So these are some few examples wherein the open source or free tools came to the rescue in addressing the critical issues. Then they omit relevant databases when extracting the data. They don't support all devices. So these are the demerits. I'm remembering another 2 cases in this particular scenario. Another case is from a local, that is related to some financial quarrel between 2 individuals. So the case was referred by the honorable judge. The question is, apart from retrieving that particular communication, that is WhatsApp related communication, the court, honorable court, is interested to know whether there is any manipulation is there in that particular messages. That means purportedly the messages have been incorporated into that particular mobile phone or otherwise. So no tool, no commercial tool, otherwise forensic free tools or open source tools will address this particular issue. Whether the data is correct or any manipulation has been done with respect to that particular data. So in that particular case, we have to depend on manual analysis, and the manual analysis is governed by the knowledge of the data arrangement. So these points we have to remember while conducting the digital forensics. Another case is further interesting. That is an iPhone related SMS database. And in that particular SMS database, the investigating agency was interested in knowing certain SMS messages. Those are threatening SMS messages. Those SMS messages, the genuinity of that SMS messages. In that particular scenario also, the manual data analysis has helped a lot in proving that certain approximately 40 to 50 SMS messages have been purportedly incorporated into the database, SMS database, to prove the case with respect to the complainant, but the complainant has turned to be a accused person after the report has gone. So actually that particular work has made me to write a research article. It was published in one of the journal. So that is another case. So my point is, of course, commercial tools will be there. And without commercial tools, we cannot do our work in a timely manner, because they are all in one and they are easy to use and they will provide you a lot of ease of functioning. But apart from that particular thing, side by side, we have to validate the results with the help of free tools and open source tools. And mostly the knowledge of data arrangement is also will be supporting this particular entire process. So these are the merits and demerits of the commercial tools. Coming to the free and open source tools, the merits and demerits, please. That's what, sir, this case is related to the same thing. iPhone, it is an iPhone case. The SMS database has been manipulated. No, that is different, sir. This is different, sir. Could not get the data means iPhone is having a SoC chip starting from 4S models, system on chip. That system on chip will be generating random encryption and decryption keys if the user is not implicating any his own credentials, login credentials. By default, the SoC chip internally existing in the iPhone models starting from 4S, it will be generating random encryption and decryption keys. By using that particular random encryption keys, the data, whatever is being fed, is going to be encrypted. So retrieving that particular data, encrypted data, that is the point where FBI instance has happened. Of course, nowadays there are so many vulnerabilities have been identified in the iOS operating system itself, and by using that particular vulnerabilities, there are few open source tools are available like Chekra1 and Checksum 8. These are the open source tools which will be exploiting the vulnerabilities in the iOS operating system, and they will be able to provide you the data in the decrypted fashion. Okay, so that is a very old issue, sir. And the other thing, what I am telling you is the databases, because in the smartphones, whether it is an Android phone or whether it is an iOS phone, now in the smartphones, the databases, text-based databases, I'm not talking about multimedia-based databases, data. I'm talking about only the text-based databases. Text-based database means your phone contacts, your SMS messages, your internet-related history, text-based, not the cache. Cache contains text and other multimedia related, but text-based only I'm talking about. Any sort of text-based, if you take a WhatsApp also, text-based conversations, any social media apps, text-based conversations, all the text-based conversations or text-based data in the smartphones are maintained in SQLite databases. And SQLite databases are systematically arranged databases. If you delete the entries in between the any numbers in that database, still you are able to retrieve that particular deleted conversations or data artifacts. Multimedia is a different thing, because multimedia, if you are deleting the multimedia based contents, then it is a very tough task to retrieve that multimedia content from the smartphones. Why? Because the file system is like that. That is yet another flash file system, version 2, version 3, something like that, they are coming nowadays. So because of the file system, the multimedia files you are unable to retrieve if they are deleted. That is one concept. The second concept is the physical drive. That is NAND RAMs, EEPROMs. So flash-based memories, which are used in the mobile phones for storing the data. They are also the reason for non-retrieval of the deleted contents. Contents in the sense, multimedia only I'm talking. Multimedia contents from the nowadays available smartphones. That is the second thing. The third one is there is a concept called wear leveling in flash medias. So due to this particular wear leveling, at the same location, data will be written, that is overwritten for a specific number of times in a particular area. Due to that particular wear leveling concept, the retrieval of the deleted data becomes the toughest task. That is the third concept. The fourth concept is there is a, of course, it is not applicable in the smartphones. specifically in the Mac systems or the SSD hard disks, not the Mac systems, SSD hard disks. Not all the SSD hard disks, please remember, only few sets of SSD hard disks. In that particular SSD hard disk, these small firmware application, what it will be doing is, as soon as you give the power supply, it will initiate. That means you should not boot the system, just simply give a power supply. That means just connect the SSD hard disk with this firmware application to any other system externally or internally. There should not be any booting process is required, but the firmware application will immediately initiate and it will do an anti-forensic process. That process is called, in Windows, it is called as disk defragmentation. Okay, a similar set of process will be initiated in the SSD hard disk. Okay, irrespective of whether the operating system is Windows or whether the operating system is any other thing, iOS or anything. But in iOS, it is mostly observed rather than in Windows-based systems. Okay, so these are the 4 reasons why you are unable to recover the data in some cases. Okay, these are in some cases all the 4 may be existing. In some cases 1 or 2 or 3 accordingly it may be existing scenarios. So we have to understand those particular concepts also. When certain set of data is not retrieved, why it is not retrieved means we have to see all these areas and understand these things. Please, sir. Yeah.
So just check.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Yes, I understand, sir. With the full disk, that is full disk encryption. In simple terms, it is FDA. Full disk encryption, when it is implemented in any systems, it may be laptop, it may be hard disk. Sir was asking about that thing. Full disk encryption can be implemented by various means and methods. That is BitLocker. Yeah. I'm coming.
You find a criminal's laptop.
Yes, sir.
He won't give you the keys, right? So
yes. So here various scenarios we have to go through. That is full disk encryption is implemented. Lux is one thing, BitLocker is one thing, Sophos is one thing. So many other things are there. PGP encryption. So many the avenues are there for implementing the full disk encryption. Coming to the retrieval of the data in the case of full disk encryptions. We are having so many examples, of course. The success rate is only 10 to 20%. In all other cases, we had a fail. Why I will tell the practical reasons. Why in 20% or 10% cases we are succeeded, and other cases we are unable to. In the digital crime investigation, digital forensic triage is a step, or it is otherwise it is called as incident response. And the digital forensic triage, otherwise the incident response, will be normally handled by the investigating agencies. And investigating agencies, if they are aware of the importance of a forensic expert, then that expert will be part of the team, but it is only 5% of the scenarios or 10% of the scenarios. In all other scenarios, the IOs are not aware of all these scenarios, issues. They simply go to the scene of crime and they will seize the system, that is laptop or hard disk or whatever may be, and they will send to the laboratory for conducting the analysis. And after some few months or so, after following the due administrative procedures, all these things, and in the laboratory also it will take some time to take the case for analysis because of dependency and other issues. When it comes to the purpose of analysis, all of a sudden the laboratory people will find that it is having full disk encryption. So they have to have the decryption keys. So they will be going back to the IO telling that this is the scenario. You please collect the decryption keys from the user if he is cooperating. Otherwise, there is no other way around. That is one thing. So here in this particular scenario, in one case, I will give you example. Of course, it is not an individual system. It is a company provided system. So the company is implementing BitLocker encryption in all their issued systems. So the company administration, system administrator is maintaining the keys. So luckily we are able to get the key and we are able to decrypt the things and provide the data in the plain text format. That is one scenario, success scenario. Coming to the other success scenario, when the IO is having a knowledge of all these scenarios. So in that particular case, the forensic expert is associated with the team and he conducted during the forensic triage process. He was able to tell the IO that a particular system is having the full disk encryption that is implemented, BitLocker. So it is necessary to collect the keys, decryption keys. Otherwise, it is, if he is not providing, at least we have to collect various sorts of data. One thing is directly the keys, that is one avenue. The second thing is his login credentials to the Microsoft account. That is another avenue. So these two avenues we have provided. Third avenue is there. That is a mostly technical one, not the administrative related one. The third avenue is collecting the RAM dump. These are the three avenues available. So luckily, in that particular case, all the three avenues worked out. That means the accused person cooperated, he provided the keys, his Microsoft account details, login details also he has provided, and the system is in on condition, so we are able to collect the RAM dump also. So from all these three avenues, we have collected the keys, and by using that particular keys, we are able to decrypt the things. So these are the various scenarios. We have to have the idea, then only we'll be able to successfully complete the investigation. And in another case is there, that is external hard disks are there. Two external hard disks seized from foreigners because they are roaming in some critical areas suspiciously. So the agencies have bought that particular external hard disk. We found that LUX based full disk encryption is being implemented. And LUX based decryption, any of the three avenues we have to have are the part of the things. But unfortunately, in that particular thing, we have not got anything. So we are unsuccessful in that particular case. So the expert has to have an idea what are his limitations, to what extent he can stretch. Okay, so all these things also have to be, knowledge of all these things also have to be have to successfully conduct the investigations. So these are the merits and demerits of the open source and free tools. Coming to the initiatives with respect to the, actually by 2010 only the open source communities became active. Prior to 2010, mostly the field is ruled by the commercial tools like NKS, Guidance, from Guidance, and then FTK and Safe Back and ProDiscover. These are the four tools which are ruling the market, and Xways of forensics is also there. These are the 5 tools which are ruling prior to 2010. After 2010, a lot of open source communities evolved. Some are supported by the government, national governments, and some are supported by external funding. And they have came out with a large number of open source tools. Some are all-in-one tools, some are task specific. But nowadays, I can tell that up to 70% of the digital forensic tasks can be handled with free and open source tools. Only in case of 30% scenarios like encryptions and then some proprietary based file systems and proprietary based databases, in those scenarios, we have to rely upon the commercial tools as on today. Maybe in future, those things also, the 30% of the area also may be addressed by the open source and free communities. We hope for that particular thing. But initiation means these are the various initiations. The Corners toolkit, that is the first tool, and it is told that this TCT, the Corners toolkit, is the basics for the various commercial, open source and free tools available today. And then it was turned into the Sleuth kit. The Sleuth kit is nowadays converted into Autopsy forensic browser, which is as good as commercial tools, which is a free tool, provided by Basis Corporation, Autopsy Forensic Browser. It is called as, or Autopsy simply. It is as good as commercial tools in many aspects. Okay, you can use that particular tool. It is a graphical user interface. Of course, TSK and TCT are a command line based interface. We have to have some programming skills and other things to work on these particular tools, and require some rigorous training to work on these particular tools. But Autopsy is does not require all these things. With 1 day or 2 days of training, you will be ready to work at basic level. As you work, you can improve your knowledge in that particular tool. And it is conducting 8 hours online training program also during the pandemic. Previously, it is an offline program with $500 fee. But during the pandemic, they have provided it open, free of cost, that 8-hour training program. Of course, now they have removed that thing now once again. It is once again made commercial, the training. But otherwise, it is a very, very good tool, Autopsy Forensics. And then Penguin Sleuth Kit, it is a modified version of the Sleuth Kit. Knoppix, it is a Linux-based boot CD operating system containing various security and forensic related analysis tasks. And Helix is my first introduction to open source tools. Of course, previously I used to work with TSK, but with TSK it became very, very tough task for me because I am unable to balance the targets and the analysis tasks with the TSK because it is slow and it requires a lot of individuals' input. So then I came across Helix. That is my first open source tool in the year. If I remember correctly, it is 2005 or 6. And I worked with Helix almost for a decade. But later on in 2000 or 2001, it became a commercial tool. So even then they have provided the open source version, that is free version. But Helix is also a Linux based bootable CD. It is itself is a operating system. But now the development has been seized for all these things. Backtrack 4, it is converted to Kali Linux nowadays. And then another government funded projects are there. That is a Belgian Federal Computer Crime Unit, Linux Forensic. Of course, this is also now the development was stopped. GRML and Operator 3.3.20. These two are still existing. These Linux-based operating systems, bootable CDs, these are still existing. And then Australian federal government's PyFlag. PyFlag is basically for the log analysis. They have developed the system logs, server logs, all these varieties of logs. PyFlag has been developed. Of course, now PyFlag also has been stopped its development activities for the last 7 or 6 years. CERT-US. This is providing a large number of open source tools, but they are not available publicly. Only to the closed community, that is law enforcement agencies. If they request through government mail IDs or agency-based mail IDs, they will be able to provide you the links. But it is having a good set of forensic tools. And then NIST, it is a premier body governing, providing various guidelines and standards in the various fields of science and technology. It is also an US body. It is also providing various tools for supporting the digital forensics. And then the Open Computer Forensic Architecture by Dutch National Public Police Agency. These are also very old. Now there are no developments are there. And then Basis technology. This is now working. Autopsy they have released. Now the Autopsy version 4.19.1 is the currently available version. You can download from their website. It is free of cost, and you can start working with that particular tool. It supports both all the platforms, that is Mac, Windows, Linux platforms, as well as mobile-based, particularly Android-based data. Of course, it does not support collecting the data from the Android databases, but you have done the task with another tool. The collected data can be analyzed by using this particular Autopsy. So these are the things. Apart from this, there are various other things are there nowadays evolving into the market. That is open source. That is Parrot is one live operating system targeting the security area, and then Suragi Linux. This is basically for the purpose of mobile phone malware related analysis. Suragi Linux is being used. Apart from that, one another thing is here, Kane, computer aided investigative environment, that is also existing for the last 10 to 15 years. That is also a good tool. That is it is a live operating system, Linux based live operating system, including various modules. And then another thing is Paladin. Paladin is also a live operating system. It also contains various modules to support the digital forensics and digital security related analysis related aspects. So these are various popular open source and free tools. Apart from that, there are unexplored free and open source tools are there. For the last 20 years, I have worked with a large number, approximately 250 plus tools. And just recently, somebody has asked me, why can't you write small book on that particular thing? What is the tool name, where it is available, what is the purpose of the tool, and in what aspect it is better than the other tool, something like that. So I have started listing out all the tools. Of course, it is not yet completed. So these are the various tools I have been working for the last 20 years. And of course, some I have dropped because there is no further development is there in the tools. The development team has stagnated at that particular level. So all those things I have dropped. That will be around some 50 to 100 in between. So finally, what are the things? Of course, some are bold. I have kept, these are commercial tools, but they will be providing you the evolution versions with the 30 days licenses, something like that. So I have kept all those things also. So these are various tools. There is a RAM capture tools. So PC maintenance toolbox, that is AT&T, network simulation lab tools. These are some of the tools. Network forensic tools. These are the various categories. Of course, the list is not complete. I'm just making them out. Packet capture tools, assets management solutions, web application scanner, packet analysis tools, digital forensics incident response. Bento is one tool, free tool. It is a combination of approximately 200 other tools. By combining some 200 plus tools, they have made a framework to perform Windows-based what is called incident response. For other set of platforms, there are other tools are there, like Triage IR is there, which will be supporting all the three platforms, that is Linux, Macintosh, and the Windows platforms. Sorry. Okay. So these are the incident response related tools. So these are the things: crowd response, fast IR, live IR, Triage IR. I have not included in this list. I have to include that thing. And enterprise level incident response, Velociraptor, GRR, GCAPE or CAPE is there. Live forensic environments, Paladin, Kane, Kali Linux, Parrot, Suragi Linux. These are the live response. And Swift Workstation is there, which is a VMware mission with all the required forensic and cyber security related modules incorporated into that workstation. Windows forensics environment, disk eraser utility, software write blockers, forensic imaging softwares, disk forensic tools, and then RAM captures, RAM analysis tools, digital forensic image mounting purpose. Of course, there is one another tool is there in this list, VFC mounting. I have to include that thing here. File system tools, these are the various tools. Windows artifact parsers and analyzers. This is a list. It is we have to add a large number of other tools also, and then some miscellaneous tools are there for the purpose. And then as I have told, the list is not complete. I'm still putting various things, collecting malware analysis and mobile phone forensic tools, also some free and open source.